Hello and welcome to Greatness Radio. I am your host, Monica Carter Tagore, bringing you information, inspiration, and occasionally even interviews to help you show up at your best. When you've made the decision to go for your own greatness, this is the place to be. Let's get to it. If you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. We have all heard that before, and it actually sounds good until you start to analyze it. I believe that saying, that whole admonishment that if you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all, I believe that's something to actually keep you away from your greatness. It's there to stymie you. It's there to stall you. It's there to keep you stuck. The reason I say that is because it's the presumption that unless you're already pretty good at doing that thing, you shouldn't even try. But how else are you to get good at it if you don't start out when you're bad at it? And that's why I believe you shouldn't really pay too much attention to that particular piece of advice or that admonishment. Instead, I think you should do things badly. I think you should stumble and bumble and whatever it is that you need to get through the learning of that thing. And then when you learn, you can get better. But you're not going to come into doing something at an expert level just right off. It's not going to happen. So to get to that high level of performance, to get to that high level of achievement, to get to being great in that thing, you've got to start out doing it badly. You've got to start out making mistakes. You've got to start out not being all that good in it. And that's okay. That's how you learn. And I think that's a much better attitude, because if that's your attitude, that allows you to try new things. It allows you to try out possibilities. It allows you to experiment, and it allows you to get better. You see, there's a saying, it says that you don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to get started to be great. So you don't have to be great when you first start out doing something. It's not going to happen. I heard that saying from a motivational speaker, and I definitely believe it's true. When you start out doing something, you're not going to be great at that point, and that's okay. But if you keep at it, if you keep trying, and if you keep learning, if you keep improving your skills, you will get better. And ultimately, you can be great. So forget that whole saying that we've all heard about, if you're not going to do it well, don't do it at all. Forget that. Start out badly if you have to. Start out poorly if you have to. Start out just not very good if you have to. And keep at it so that you can get better, so that you can learn, so you can grow, and so you can be great in that thing. So how does this show up in your life right now? It shows up in your life in that if you have felt maybe called to do something, let's say creative, you've been called to write, but you've somehow held back on writing because you don't feel you're very good. Or maybe you have felt called to maybe start working in a different area, but you've kind of held off on it because you don't think you're very good. Or maybe you feel called to perhaps start on a different type of project, a project you've never done before, but you've held off on this project possibly for years and years because you don't feel that you'll be very good. Well, now this frees you up. Don't worry about being bad at it. Just start at it. Just start at it in some small way now so that you can get better. So what if you're not a great writer? So what if you're not very good at writing? So what if your writing even stinks? Just start. Just keep at it. Just learn. Just educate yourself so that you can get better and better and better. Same thing for that work project or anything else. Start so that you can learn. If you don't start, how will you learn? If you don't experiment, how will you learn? If you don't start, how will you grow? So that's my message here for you in this particular podcast. Don't worry about not being very good right now. Don't worry about performing badly right now. Don't worry about doing poorly right now. Right now, it's about learning. Right now it's about improving. Right now is about just diving in. And if you keep at it, the bad part will pass. The poor performance will pass. The not being very good will pass. I have seen some of the early episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond. And Ray Romano is the star of the show. He's a comedian. And when he first started in that show that was really built around him, he wasn't a very good actor. His acting was a little bit wooden. It was stiff. It didn't have quite the flow of some of the other people on the show. But if you see him in some of his work now, he was on the recently completed Parenthood, which has wrapped up, and he's been in some other productions, and his acting is really good. He started out when he wasn't very good, but it was by honing his craft. It was by continuing to work. It was by sticking to it that he became better, and now he's a fine actor. So what about you? Where is it can you be bad so that you can ultimately be great? You can do this thing. Look at your life right now and look at that place where you feel really called, where you feel compelled, where you feel purpose to step it up in a big way, but you've been holding out a little bit. You've been holding off. You've been a little bit afraid to step out simply because you don't think you'll be very good. Look at that place and see where you can start. See where you can start, even if you have to start when you're pretty bad at what you want to do. See that place where you can start and where you can grow and where you can go into something bigger. When you do that, you're inviting your greatness in. You're inviting your greatness to show up in your life in a big, bold way. So don't be intimidated by the fact that you're not very good right now. We all have to start somewhere. Every single one of us. I remember when I was a young reporter and I was possibly doing an internship, or maybe it was in my very first job. I can't remember now, but I had to interview the family of a woman who had been slain by her husband. She had been killed and maybe their children had been killed. And so I had to interview that woman's sister the day they buried her. And so I said, "How do you feel?" And the sister came back at me with a very legitimate retort. She said, "How do you think I feel?" And of course, as a young reporter, I was rather discombobulated. I was stumbling and bumbling all over myself. I didn't really know how to get through that interview because I felt bad that I had to talk to this family at such a tragic occurrence, but I had to do it. It was my job. I aspired to be a reporter. I wanted to be a good reporter. And so that bad interview helps me ultimately to become a much better reporter. But if I didn't have experiences like that one and others to where I bumbled my way through, to where I felt I wasn't very good, I would never have gotten to the point where I received 3 promotions in 18 months, or where I was chosen to become on a management track for the newspaper because they saw my potential. If I hadn't started out badly, I could not have ascended to those levels. And so it'll be with you. It's okay to start out badly. You're not going to stay there. You're going to continue to get better and better and better so that ultimately you are very good at what you're doing. Ultimately, you're even great. So that's why you need to do things badly. You need to do things badly so that you can become very good and even great. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to go to iTunes and subscribe. And tell a friend too, so they can live and breathe their greatness. And for more free information, inspiration, and ideas, be sure to go to monicacartertagore.com/greatness-newsletter and join the newsletter so that you get all of my best strategies, ideas, and information on freeing your greatness. In fact, go there now and you can get the Greatness Starter Collection, which is 3 free resources to inspire and inform you on your path to greatness. You have it in you? Go on. Set your greatness on fire.